Hi, y'all.
Hey, how we doing?
I'm good. I'm shocked. I get on and there's people already on here. Y'all are early. Maureen even made it early.
Even
Oh
me.
my gosh.
I even made it.
Good work. Good work. Well, I hope y'all are enjoying a good week. Thanks for letting me take a week off last week. I enjoyed Michigan a little bit. Anything new on you guys' horizons? Maureen, how you doing? You're selling a condo soon? Did I see that?
No, there is a condo in my complex. It may already
Okay.
be sold. I knew about it and I didn't have listing, and I actually don't have a.
When we're talking with sellers about listing their home, we always want to under promise and over deliver. So we want to be conservative with our numbers. We're going to show you, we're going to walk through a couple of CMA examples to give you an idea of what I and my team do. But we're also going to talk about how we approach that from a buyer's perspective, because when a buyer is presenting an offer, most buyers these days want to make sure they're getting in for a good deal, right? Or getting in for a good value. And because the market has shifted a little bit, that buying power has increased. When I say, I keep using this term shifting market, what does that mean to you all?
Well, it means that, interest rates are climbing, and therefore the market is going to slow down as far as sellers getting over asking price. Bidding wars, I think, will decline somewhat. Some buyers might go away because they're afraid of the interest rates.
You're hit the nail on the head, Maureen. Good work. And that's a fact. The multiple offer scenarios have slowed dramatically. The last probably 5 homes we put into contract have had 0 other offers. And what does that do?
Wow.
If you're representing a buyer, what does that do for your buyer?
Well, it shifts it. It makes the buyer stronger. It makes their offer stronger.
Yeah. Case in point, sometimes we learn best through examples. So there was a $565,000 house. This is the beauty of real estate. My clients went during an open house, so I didn't even have to go. And they really liked it, and they said, "Yeah, let's put an offer on this place." So I've never even seen it, but we're in contract, and here's how it worked out. We offered, because there was no other offers and it had been on the market for like 3 or 4 weeks. That put leverage completely in our side. They needed a buyer, and the sellers overshared, or their realtor overshared the fact that they've already got another place and they need to find a buyer quickly. So all of our leverage, it's all on our side. So we offered $40K less and ended up meeting in the middle. We ended up in contract $25,000 under asking price. So it can happen. We also negotiated an inspection, remedy, and a home warranty. So we was just talking with Brad. Brad's in the office with me. Hi, Brad. He
What do you
asked,
mean
know,
by
what-
you negotiated it? Can you share those terms with me, how they came out?
what was the question?
You said that you were able to negotiate the inspections and remedies. And I was curious if you could share what the outcome of, how did you negotiate them? Did they split the costs?
No, no,
How did
no.
that pan out?
So when you're writing the purchase contract, and this is a good question because a lot of us maybe haven't been in the situation yet. When you write the purchase contract here in Central Ohio, at least, when we ask for an inspection, that will be paid for by the buyer.
Yes,
Whenever we have our initial buyer consultation, it's always good to share, hey, your first out-of-pocket expense, and really your only out-of-pocket expense until closing, is going to be the home inspection. You can get a multitude of different inspections, but with our contract, the way it's worded, as long as you put an inspection window in the contract, I don't know if I put 7 days, that's ample time for you to find inspectors. That will allow you to do all the inspections necessary. And then further down the page, there's a portion where you can write in a remedy request period. The
mhm,
remedy request is simply, you're going to ask for them to fix some things, and then you'll have 3 days to negotiate what that looks like. So we
Okay.
are currently on day 1 of our remedy period. We're negotiating some things, and we still have the upper hand. I was just telling Brad, I actually, there are certain points, and this is coaching for you. You may be a phone person, you may be an email person, you may be a text person. For me, I'm a text person. The reason being is this: when another agent calls me and wants to talk, I'm a processor, so I sometimes speak emotionally. And so therefore I don't think through my responses as well. And I could give up some leverage. So once I get a home in contract, I almost avoid the phone like the plague, because
So
especially when we're
interesting.
negotiating a remedy request like I'm doing currently,
Yeah,
I go to text message because I can respond with something really well and thought out. I have time to respond, and then I can read into what they respond with. Like normally there's context clues about what the other side is feeling when you're reviewing a text message. But if I just talk to them on the phone, sure, I get voice tonality and stuff like that. But I have a trouble remembering what all was said. When I'm texting, I know I got the whole transcript right there. So that's just me and my personality, and it's worked for me so far. But it may be different for you guys. So in the contract, you can actually write in an inspection window and remedy request window. You can also request a home warranty. That home warranty here in Central Ohio is paid for by the seller. So we negotiated $550, I think it was, home warranty. So that just gives the buyer a little bit more peace of mind. They're walking with a little protection. But good question on how that all works. There was a little bit back and forth while we were negotiating the contract, but ultimately, name of the game, what we're going back to is this shifting market is allowing my buyers to get more buying power, more feathers in their cap as they go to closing, because they've got more on their side. Sellers are still getting good prices. If the seller of that home would have priced their home more accurately, they would have likely been in contract quicker and still have had the leverage. So what that comes down to is doing what we're talking about and running a successful CMA. Can somebody tell me what a CMA stands for?
Hey, Josh,
Double
real
market
quick.
analysis.
Thank you. Michael, what were you saying?
Yeah, back to your point. When you're, I guess, negotiating those different things, is there let's say a 2-week mark that you feel more aggressive? Like you said, that house was on the market 20 days. So you obviously felt like, hey, let's leverage those different things. But, like you said, if it's on the market 2 days and the buyers really want it, then you go in more aggressive. Do you kind of have a, 2-week mark where there's a certain
It's
amount of
funny,
days?
and that's a great question too. In this market, I feel like a week is too long for a listing to be on the market.
wow.
And that always changes, right? So 2 years ago, 14 days would have still been pretty fresh, and I wouldn't have lowballed so much necessarily. But at the same time, we want to be aggressive. Don't hesitate to be aggressive for your clients. Remember, you're their fiduciary for a reason. They trust you to get them the best value possible. So if you call the other realtor ahead of presenting an offer and say, hey, I know your home's been on the market for 7 days. Do you have any other offers? And what can you tell me about good offers? What do those look like to your sellers? What does a good possession and closing time frame look like? What's important to them? If they say, no, we don't have any other offers, gloves are off. Go to town. Now, I just use the term lowball. Lowball, what I've always been told and what I always prescribe to is a lowball offer, otherwise known as an offer that could definitely turn some people off if you presented it, would be considered 20% below asking price. So in a $100,000 home, if I offered 80, that'd be considered a lowball offer. I always steer my clients clear of going that crazy. But if you were to take 10% off a price of a home that's been on the market 7 days, who knows? Also, while negotiating, and this is turning into a negotiation class, which is cool, market of the moment. But when you're negotiating, always start by asking your clients, hey, where would you be comfortable ending? Where is the finish line for you? Because if your finish line, let's say we're at a $100,000 house, if their finish line, if they're not willing to go above 90, then maybe we start out at like 85 or 87. Maybe they'll accept right away and you just saved them five or $3K, but expect a counter offer when you're offering below. That being said, also understand the leverage situation. Play hardball. Read the tonality of people's text messages, etc. And if you ever need a second opinion, give me a screenshot. I'll tell you who's got the leverage right away. Normally it's a common sense type thing though. But yeah, in this market, I'm saying 7 days is leverage shifting. They've clearly priced it incorrectly, or the condition and or availability of showings is not there. 14 days, that's ancient in our current market. So 14 days, you don't even need to ask if you have leverage. You can assume you have leverage. That being said, I will always prescribe to reaching out to the agent prior to me spending any time writing an offer to confirm that they do or do not have offers. Because if they say, well, we're getting an offer in right now as we speak, then okay, I know I need to beef it up a little bit. If they say no, then again, gloves are off. Great question, Michael. So,
can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
And if this is off the topic, that's fine. But I had a situation where my clients looked at a home of, I don't know, about a month ago. That's when I was showing them. And we made a super strong offer. The only thing we didn't do is go above asking. We may have even gone above asking, but we gave them everything they wanted. My buyers were pre-qualified. And I called the agent ahead of time before we put the offer in, and he said, oh, you know, somebody said they were going to make an offer, but I haven't heard anything yet. So we put the offer in and didn't hear, and I should have called him, but I probably waited too long. But the next day I finally called him and he said, oh no, somebody came in after you with cash. So that's the way it goes. So
that's not
the buyer
the way,
accepted
that's
the
not the
cash
way it
offer.
has to go. I'm going to interrupt you there for a second, and I don't know.
I felt like,
well, hold on, Maureen.
I felt
I don't
like
know what
we
the
got-
circumstances
I felt
was for
like
your
a
offer.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what the circumstances were for your offer deadline, but we must be aggressive with the deadlines we're imposing on the other side in deciding on an offer. So if my kind of rule of thumb is, if I offer today before 12 p.m., before noon, I want an answer by 9 p.m. If you give them till tomorrow, you're giving them a whole additional window of time for them to get additional people in, for them to call their buddies who have seen the place and say, hey, I just got an offer. You gonna bring one? Oh yeah, we'll bring one that's better. Be aggressive with your time frames. If you're placing an offer 4 p.m. or later, I would go 9 a.m. the next day.
Okay,
You don't have to follow people's guidelines for offers. When an agent says all highest and best offer by Sunday at 5 p.m., I'll tell you who's gotten good at this. Victor, if Victor's on, Victor's gotten really good at this by just strong arming people and saying, here's our offer. It's only good till today at X time. I see what you want on your listing information of all the offers open till then, but we're not doing that. Sorry, we got other houses we want to see. It's this whole game about negotiating is all about leverage. And you're not being a meanie about it. You're not being a bad person about it. You're just looking out for number one, which is your clients. You don't care about the seller's guidelines and what they want, because that gives them leverage. So wipe that away. And people are scared. Well, what if they say, no, I want you to extend your offer? Okay, here's what I've done in the past. I say, well, we're not willing to do that right now. We have other showings. I'll let you know if they change their mind. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, they really want this house. I know we're going to be extending this, but I'm like still playing hardball right to the very end. And sometimes it works. Sometimes they say, oh, well, you got other showings. Well, this is a good offer. Okay, we'll see what we can. And then they sign the offer. And sometimes they do play hardball because maybe they do have other offers. But be aggressive with your time frames and ensure that when you submit your offer, the other side is aware of your offer expiration time. So whenever I send an offer over, I also text that agent and I say, hey, offer submitted, exclamation points, yada, yada. Please confirm receipt and expiration of offer. That ensures that they've seen it and that they're aware that this thing isn't open all day long. Now, in certain different parts of the world, i.e. Zanesville, these country or more rural areas, they don't give a crap about your deadline because they're not used to that. Everything is a little slower out there. And I'm going to assume the same is probably down in Kentucky where people aren't always aware. So you have to, being the great agent that you are, you have to make them aware. Hey, my offer will expire tomorrow at 9 a.m. If you don't respond, then we're moving on. And I kind of use the market as an excuse. The market's too fast for us to wait. There's other options out there that we want to see. Cool. All right, CMA. So why is a CMA important? Well, if I'm on the buy side and a home is listed at 650 and all the comps around it are at 600, well, what does that tell me? It's overpriced. And so I want to come to my buyer and say, hey, I really think that it's only going to probably appraise for 600. This person's still thinking that the market's hot. They think they can get 50K extra. I'm going to encourage us not to go above 600. Now, sometimes they want it so bad that they're willing to spend whatever. Okay, great. But at the end of the day, we are in our positions to give professional advice. Now, how do we derive that number, that price of how much that home should be worth? Well, it requires a little bit of work. The good news is, after you've done a few CMAs, you'll get really good at them and you'll get really good at doing them quickly to the point where it shouldn't take you much longer than 5-10 minutes to run a CMA. A CMA, again, is a competitive market analysis. Simply put, what have other homes in the area that are apples to apples sold for in the last X number of days? Can anyone tell me how far back an appraiser is able to go when giving you a value on your home?
Is it about 3 to 6 months? Is that kind of what they look for?
A year. They're able to go back a year. So when they're pulling comps for the lender, they're able to go back 1 year. So in theory, you shouldn't go back when you're trying to pull comps. You shouldn't go back any further than 1 year, because 1 year ago was a completely different market. Now I say that, and I like to, if there's enough comps to do this, I like to go back 90 days. So if you have 5 or 6 comps to go off of, that's adequate for you to derive your price that is current, like market of the moment. And why would I say 90 days? Because 90 days ago, the market started to shift. We started to see that influx of interest rates. And then 30 days ago, we saw basically a drop dead, like we slowed to a crawl. Listings started to crawl up. Let's see how many active listings. This is just Central Ohio. I'm going to say over 3,000. Yeah, 3,000. As the coming soons, we're almost 3,300. Go back 90 days ago, we were down in like the 1,700 listings. So number one, know your numbers. These are the bare essential numbers you need to know as a realtor. So I see you on here, Maddie. This is your first call. Congratulations, by the way, on getting your license. Everyone say hi to Maddie. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Maddie.
The bare minimum number you should know, and you don't need to know a whole lot of numbers about real estate, is be aware of your market of the moment. So if somebody was to say, hey, tell me, I heard you just got your license. Tell me a little bit about the market. Well, currently, there are about 3,000 active homes for sale, which is actually an increase. So we're seeing more homes, more inventory available right now, making it a little bit easier for buyers. However, if you price it right, sellers are still getting multiple offers in in a lot of situations, depending upon area. That's my script. That's just the way I go. So the way you find that information is you get on the MLS, regardless of if you're in Kentucky, Zanesville, here, Cleveland, anywhere. Just find out how many active homes there are. Cool. So when we're running comps, we're not necessarily caring so much about actives because appraisers can't use those. And we're coming at this from an appraiser's lens. What homes have actually closed that an appraiser would use to price out and value a home? And I'm going to go back to Real Estate 101, and Maddie or Christian is on. Christian's not even got his license yet, and he's here because he's aggressive and hungry. Once you get your buyers in contract, if they're financing the home, meaning they're not using cash, then the lender will order an appraisal. The appraiser is a third party that's going to walk through the home, verify updates and upgrades, and then they're going to go back to their dungeon, their office, and they're going to run comps. They're not going to give a crap about active homes because it's not sold. Okay. So they're only going to use closed homes. I'm going to do a real life situation. I just had a listing appointment at a home. I'm not going to verify the address with y'all, but I'm going to go to the building. It's an apartment building downtown. And we're going to do a CMA together. And I want your input. I just need to find it now. Here we are. It is on the corner of Spring and Front. Here we go. So with RMLS, it's probably pretty similar to Kentucky's. You can zoom in on a map area and you can use these polygon tools. I always use a polygon here if I'm in a neighborhood. If I'm downtown and I'm looking at comps in a condo building, I really only care about that condo building. Why? Because real estate, you've heard me say this before, real estate is hyper local. Go ahead and borrow that term. Hyper local makes you sound super intelligent. Hyperlocal simply means that the street you're on, the building you're in matters, and it's different and unique from the building across the street. So we're in a condo situation here. So I'm just going to do a quick circle around that right there. So the unit is in this building. I'm going to quickly see what's active. Here's what you need to know about this comp. It's a 1 bed, 1 bath, 954 square foot home that is really well finished, really well appointed. It's clean. It's ready to sell. That's what you need to know. Is a 1 bedroom, 1 bath comparable to a 2 bedroom, 3 bath? It's the same building. Is it comparable?
No,
Absolutely not. When I pull up the details, this
I don't
one's
think so.
over 3,000 square feet.
Okay,
My listing is a third that size. This is not an apples to apples comparison, and it's an active home, so it's worthless to me. All that I'm concerned about is the homes that have sold. Okay. That being said, because I want to know more about the situation, I'm also going to click through coming soon to see if there's anything coming soon that might be viable. Nope, there's 0 coming soons. I also want to see if there's anything contingent. Contingent simply meaning, Maddie, that the home is under contract, awaiting certain contingencies, meaning normally inspections and financing. So there's nothing. There's not a whole lot of activity here. Pending means that it's passed the inspections and they've already got loan approval, so it's just waiting closing, or it's a cash offer. There is one pending, so let's see what the scoop is here. 2-bed, 2-bath. I click on the details. It's significantly larger. I don't think I'm going to use this as a comp either. If I have to, then I will, but I don't think I have to yet, and I'll tell you why. Because when I go to the closed units in the last year, there are 5 units. Let's see what we can find here. I see 1 bed, 1 bath. Perfect. That's apples to apples. I'll guarantee it. I see another one. Boom. We got 2. That's great. And then a third. Awesome. I don't care about these other ones. We have enough here to go off of. So I'm going to go with my selected items. Next, I'm going to drill down to see just how apples to apples they are, noting their initial list price and then what they sold for, as well as days on market. Notice their days on market were horrendous. Our average right now is 7 to 14 days on market. These are, we're talking months. Knowing that ahead of time, I know that these units are slower to move than our typical houses around Central Ohio. So I need to be really conservative while pricing this. Now, if this condo was out in Dublin and DOM, days on market, was like 3, then I know that I can be super aggressive because it's highly desirable. But that's not where we're at. So I'm going to click down. So the range in prices goes from 195 all the way up to 220. Well, we'd love to end up at 220, but if I'm smart, I know that that's the ceiling, and I don't want their home to be on the market for 200 days. So let's just see what this leads to. So detail. And by the way, I did do a listing appointment here yesterday. I walked through the property. It's in great shape. I gave them their list of things to do, and now I'm just running the final piece of that comp, or CMA, which is actually giving them a number of, if we were to go list today, here's what the price would be. And the key is just that. You need a caveat every listing appointment you go on to say, as of today. Why would I say as of today instead of saying, I know this is what we can get you? Brad says, because it could change. Why could it change? Because the market changes. What do you mean? Go further.
Different. Another higher listing could sell, another lower one could sell lower.
Yep.
Something like that.
Bingo. And that's what I always say in these listing appointments is that, hey, I'm going to give you a ballpark number of what you'd expect now, but we're not going to derive an actual locked in price until probably the week before we list, because things will change. If we don't list this for 60 days, what sense does it do for me to give them a number that's like a promise? Remember, going back to the start, we want to under promise and over deliver. So in this situation, I'd love to gear more towards 195 and get them 220. Can't guarantee that. This first comp appears to be apples to apples in the size. 1 bed, 1 bath, 956 square feet. It's the exact same thing. What I would do next is go into the photos. Also noting this right here. Why was this on the market 215 days? Well, just look at this. It started out way overpriced compared to what they should have, where they ended up. They started out at 240 basically and ended up 45K less. That's not a good look for the realtor. Let's go into the photos. And sometimes you'll find that the photos are terrible, and maybe that's why it didn't sell quickly. These guys are leading us through the entry. I mean, that's a nice photo right there. It's nicely staged. Ugh, this makes me a little ill that they only got 195 because I got my work cut out for me. This thing's ready to sell. And this is the exact same layout as mine. Nice bathroom. Okay, so this is literally apples to apples. Now mine has a backsplash, a little bit nicer cabinets, but altogether this thing's identical. So what can I say? Well, this is a definite apples to apples comparison. Next thing I look at is when did it sell? When was the exact date? If I go down to the bottom, it sold November 18th of last year. So the one thing we do have on our side is a little bit of time where the market has increased a little bit. So maybe we're looking at higher than 195, but doesn't make me feel like we're gonna get much more than that. Next, let's go to the top. The $220,000 house is a little bit larger by about 200 square feet. So maybe that's why they got more. They started it at 240 as well, and ended at $20,000 less. Again, 200 days on the market. Woof. This one sold almost a year ago. Cash. So when I see cash, cash buys a lower price. Would we all agree? Cash buys a lower purchase price. And the reason for that is because you eliminate some stresses from the seller. You don't have to worry about an appraisal when you have a cash offer because there's no lender involved. So I know that this person may have gotten, if they would have gotten a finance offer, maybe they would have gotten 225 or so. But an appraiser is not going to care about that. They're just going to go with the 220. It sold about a year ago. So again, we've got time on our side. But this is the highest price comp that we see. Next, let's go to the photos. Similar size space, honestly. That extra 200 square feet doesn't do much for this. Nice enough. Nothing special. All right. This one makes me feel better about ours. So ultimately what I'm saying is I'm going to tell my client, like, hey, here's the scoop. There are 3 homes that have sold in the past year. They range from 195 to 220. All of them were on the market over 100 days. What that tells us is that we have to price this right out of the gate. If we want to sell this quickly and avoid stress, we want to price this towards the lower end. Now there's 3, I always say this, steal shamelessly. There's 3 pricing strategies. Number 1, we price it dead on where the appraiser would likely appraise this for. So in this situation, I think we could get 220 for it. I think an appraiser would appraise it at 220 because it's very similar size, very similar finishes. Mine might be a little nicer inside. The second option is to price it low and hope that we can drive multiple offers, which will ultimately push the purchase price up higher. That is the strategy I always recommend. Let me price this lower. The market will understand there's value, and then we might get multiples. Or, and this happens a lot, especially if you're trying to convert a for sale by owner who thinks their property is the best property in the world, or we can price it higher than what I think it'll appraise for, and you might get one buyer who's dumb enough to offer, but ultimately it's a risk. I always like option 1 or 2 much better than option 3. Again, steal shamelessly, know your client and know how to attack that. But this is how I run my CMAs. I don't do a whole big report. We can go through how to do an actual CMA report if y'all would like. But end of the day, this is how I pull my comps. It was pretty quick, right? If I wasn't explaining it and talking it through with you guys, I could have done this in 5 minutes. It gets a little bit more tricky when you're doing things in neighborhoods because there's a lot more square footage and it's not necessarily apples to apples. All these units, all 3 of these are going to be the same layout. It's going to be easy. Next, I wanted to talk, what questions real quick do we have about CMAs?
Where would you go if like you can't find, like a lot of people in my area, they use GLAR instead of HCAR, which is like out of Louisville, and I use HCAR. So sometimes it's harder for me to find comps because everybody uses GLAR and not everybody. What do you like, where do you recommend to go to look for like comps if you can't find them in your MLS? Can you
Yeah,
even
and
is it
that's a
relevant?
great question that a lot of us are going to have, especially like a Michael, anyone in Kentucky, because Kentucky is basically all kinds of different MLSs, right? And it sucks, but I hate to say it, the ultimate answer for you to do the best job possible is to join that MLS as well. It's likely only going to cost you maybe $20, $30. I don't want to speak out of turn, but normally when I've joined other MLSs, it's about $20 extra a month. Your brokerage is likely already a member of that MLS, which will make that process a lot easier. I know, Michael, you've probably had to join the other MLS over there because you're kind of on the border of Columbus and the other one. In order for you to do the most thorough job possible, you have to have access to that data.
Yeah.
And unless you're part of a team maybe that has both, or you know somebody that can run comps for you that you don't mind going to, I always prefer to do it myself because everyone pulls comps differently, and I don't trust other people's numbers. So joining that other MLS, unfortunately, is the best, most thorough way to go. That's a great question, and one that we struggle with. I just listed a home in Springfield, which is about an hour away, and unfortunately, it's got its own tiny little MLS. It costs me maybe $50 to join and $20 a month, but for my clients, if I'm doing the best job possible, I'm willing to spend that to make a couple $1,000s in commission.
Yeah.
So if anyone on this call needs to or wants to join another MLS, the process is actually pretty simple. Those MLSs will have an application. You'll want to loop your broker into this and just give them a warning saying, hey, I'm going to join GLAR. Heads up, they're going to be reaching out for a signature likely. And it's really simple. Normally it can happen in a couple days.
Yeah.
Great question. Now, we just talked about this as if we were going to a listing appointment. The same holds true if I had a client that was going to offer on that active home in here. I would come back home and pull these comps just to see if it's worth what they're selling it for, or if I think that we would have appraisal issues, because I want to be the pro. I want to be the expert. And the more knowledge I have, the more power I have. And sometimes the agent doesn't even realize they've overpriced it. There are bad agents out there, just point blank. We don't want y'all to be that bad agent. We want you to be the well-informed agent. So when I go to write an offer that's lower than asking price in a situation like this, and I've pulled comps, I will tell the other agent why and justify to them so that they've got some tools to go to their seller and say, hey, here's their offer. The other agent said, this is why. And when you have justification and information, that might make them more amenable to that deal because maybe they realize that they're overpriced.
Another question, this is a little off topic, but I took a listing as my first listing. So I was just like eager to get a listing, and it was a for sale by owner, but I also knew these people. And it's in a really like soon to be super high traffic area because there's going to be a Ford plant put behind it that they're working on right now. Well, I let them price it just to get the listing. And I would not recommend that because it can be super stressful in the future if you know it's overpriced. But we have gotten some offers that I think are like awesome. But I've got one coming in today that's like, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it over Zoom,
There's
But
nobody from your MLS here, so you're not talking to competition.
so it's $125 less than asking price cash. And we got one last weekend. Mind you, this is only our second offer. We got one last weekend for $225,000 less. They would not even counter offer because this is their logic. So it has not went commercial yet, but they have put in the application and it's going to apparently be zoned commercial on the 16th. And my client's logic as it sits right now, which I have not presented this offer because it hasn't came in my email yet, but they are wanting to raise the price again once it goes to commercial. And I asked them, I was like, what's your logic on that? Like, why? Like, how do I talk them out of that? Because I feel like that's a terrible idea to raise the price whenever we've already price dropped it once as residential.
What do you guys say? What's your advice for Sarah?
I feel like they just need to take the offer, but I mean, it's not my property. And of course, we all just want to close on a deal, but I mean, I told them with the last offer, I was like, you need to be okay with walking away from this and knowing that you may never get an offer again, like realistically, because it's like a, I guess, special circumstance kind of, because it's different, because it's residential, it's going to commercial.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
What is anybody else on the coaching call?
I don't understand.
Any opinions?
It's a residential
So I get it. She's in an area that she just jumped off. Unfortunately, I think she got cut off.
sorry, I
oh, there you
have
are.
bad signal.
So
Sorry, I have bad signal.
my advice to you, Sarah, is to present them with facts. And if they're patient, then good for them. They can wait. If they can afford to wait, good for them. If they want to maximize what they can make, then time is just as much money. Do they own the place outright?
Yeah, and it was like inherited, so it's not. And it was listed last year. They see this on the listing. It was listed last year for a quarter of the price that it is now with another agent.
Well,
I think that
if you're marketing it, so here's what I would do to make sure all your bases are covered. You need a property doesn't sell for one of three reasons. If you can write this down, because I use this every week. A property will not sell for three reasons. Number one, it's overpriced. Number two, the agent hasn't marketed it well. Maybe it's bad photos. Maybe it's zero advertising or promoting of the property. Or number three, it's not accessible or ready to show. So you determine what the reasoning is. And maybe it's a combination of, sometimes it's all three, where it's overpriced, especially in a for sale by owner situation. It's overpriced, the photos are crap, and it's a for sale by owner, meaning they're not marketing it at all because they don't know how. And it's not available to show. I see for sale by owners all the time that, hey, we're only allowing showing 6 to 8 p.m. Well, then why are you even trying to sell this thing? Or they got dogs and it smells like dog hair when you walk in, or it's an old crack house and it's all crap all over the place. Will that property ever sell? No, it won't, because you can't even envision what it could be. So a property will not sell for one of those three reasons. If we've covered step 2 and 3, where we've got great photos, we've done a really good markup of it in the MLS, a really nice wording. The listing is thoroughly placed in the MLS. And you've done some maybe Facebook or maybe some door knocking, etc. You've done some calling, make sure that you're getting the word out. Then check that box. If it's accessible, meaning the owners are willing to let people in pretty much whenever showings are requested, and they keep it showing ready, then check that box. Now we have a lot of problems with that. A lot of people like to live in their listing. Well, that's fine, but you got to
Yeah.
live cleaner than you've ever lived in your life. Like you got to live like
Yeah.
like you have the president coming over to your house. That normally just leaves us with the third option. If we've covered steps 2 and 3, the first option is normally the reason things don't sell in this market is that it's overpriced. So if you, Sarah, could go and say this to that client and say, hey, your home looks great. We've marketed the snot out of it. There's only one other reason this isn't selling, it's price. Now, if you haven't maybe advertised like future commercial, Ford plant going in right behind, property value is going to skyrocket. Even maybe in the photos you post, here's the proposed site of the Ford plant. Here's when it's open.
And all
Here's the
that.
amount of jobs it's going to bring, etc. That would be
Yeah.
good.
I've covered all the boxes. I think it's just the first one is overpriced, unfortunately. But like my issue is like the main issue I guess I'm trying to answer is like, how do I tell them or get them to change their mind about wanting to raise the price again once it goes commercial? Like, why?
Anybody who wants to, here's what I would say. Anybody who would want to purchase this for commercial would have already stepped through the door because they would want to get it in for a deal.
And
So
that's what I told
we're
them.
past that. We're
Yeah,
past that
and
now. And now it's all comes down to your pricing. Just because you change the word on the zoning doesn't mean you're going to find a whole new buyer.
Yeah. They're just tough to deal
Hey,
with.
Sarah, I kind of jumped in on the end of this conversation, but my thought is like, I would give them like, okay, we'll try your way and give them a time frame of a couple weeks. And then when that doesn't work, then get them to try your way kind of thing. Like give them a like compromise. I
Yeah.
don't know if you're already
That's
past
like-
that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good philosophy too. Here's at the end of the day, you're going to have tough clients. Most of the clients you'll work with are normal, usual people that you can speak sense into. And some people are hard-headed,
Yeah.
want things their own way. And those are the toughest to deal with because you can't, no matter what you do, drill it into them. All you can do is give them the facts, tell them why, and give your advice. And at the end of the day, if they want to take it, great. And if not, sometimes it's a long haul. Sometimes it never closes. And at some point you just have to say, how much is my time and my stress level worth? And at times we have to fire clients. It's not what we want to do. And I'm not promoting that. I like working through hard clients because it's going to make me better. It stresses me to crap out, but it's going to make me better at the end of the day. Well, cool
I
guys.
think the biggest fact we got on our side is none of us are in this business to lose money. So if I'm giving you a price on something, that's what I feel is worth. That's what I feel the market is basing off of. I'm not going to give you a number I'm not going to lowball myself.
I like what you're saying, Jason, because what you're basically saying is I'm pricing this house as if it were mine. And I value my money and my time. And I want to do the same for you. That's how this relationship is going to work. Me being a fiduciary makes me an extension of you and your family. And I would not recommend something if I didn't feel in my bones that it was the right move. So brutal honesty sometimes is what you got to do. And if it works, great. And if not, hold on to your butt. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to move on to real quick. ARV. It's the same principle. Does anybody know what ARV stands for? Has anybody dealt with any
Some with the value of the home.
If you've dealt with an investor, you may have heard this term, ARV. It stands for after rehab value. A lot of us, especially our first couple of years, when we say we're a realtor, out of the woodwork will come investors. And normally if you can work with one investor and do a good job, that is a lot of repeat business. What an investor cares about is getting into the market low, meaning buying something for cheap, fixing it up, and then either reselling it or holding it and renting it. The ARV after rehab value means, hey, we're going to buy it for $100,000, but it's falling apart. It's a crap hole. What would the ARV be after we fixed it up? After average resale value or after rehab value, it all means the same thing as how much is this house, how much could this home be worth if we fixed it up and brought it up to code? Any thoughts on how it would go about finding out the ARV of a home?
Probably getting a contractor over. See how much it's gonna cost first.
That's a good idea. And Jason, that's a great point. The longer you're in this industry, the more you just kind of know how much a kitchen's going to cost baseline, how much a bathroom's going to cost, how much flooring, how much paint costs, drywall work, etc. Basement foundation work. I'm at the point now where I can basically, I'm 4 years in. I've walked with enough people, inspectors, etc., contractors to know kind of ballpark what things would cost. That's very helpful in situations where maybe you're working with foreign investors, foreign only meaning they're not local, and you're doing maybe virtual tours with them, and you see, okay, the kitchen needs a complete rehab. That's going to budget in $15K. Or if you want to really amp it up, maybe $20K. These are broad numbers. Bathroom needs completely redone. That's $5K. So understanding how much money is going to go into the project is important, but ARV is something different. ARV is, okay, let's say all those fixes have been done. How much is it going to be worth? What does the market dictate that home could be worth? So going back to my question, any idea how we'd go about that? Don't overthink this.
Run some CMAs on properties.
Bingo. Yep. So do what we just did. And I'm hovering over Franklinton. Franklinton is an up and coming area where a lot of investors are going. So let's just see here. Let's find an active home here in this general vicinity. Hold on one second. Nothing active there. What? Shut up. Please hold. I just want to give an example. All right, there's 18 homes. Let's see. Let's find one. All right, here's a great example. I know this is going to be a fixer-upper because their front photo here is an auditor's website photo, so they didn't even spend money taking photos. It's priced at $120. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath. For the sake of time, if I clicked on the detail here, 1,342 square feet. From the picture, it looks like it kind of looks a little rough on the outside. I'm going to assume there's not many photos. Yep, just one. And from that photo, you can tell there's no AC. It's a dirt hole. It needs new siding, probably new windows, probably new roof. And just from the picture, I'm going to assume it needs a whole new gut job. Let's see what it says on the listing information. It's rented, so it's tenant occupied. So you would have to offer a curb offer, meaning you can't walk through the property most likely. Yeah, it says curb offers only. In a tenant occupied situation, which is a lot of what you're going to be dealing with investors, you're going to be offering sight unseen. The good news with offers like this is you write into the contract a window of time for you to get into the home after you have an accepted offer. But let's just say in this situation, it's a gut job and it's nasty inside. So not worrying, Jason, to your point about how much these things are going to cost you. All you're worried about is it going to be worth it to pursue? So knowing that it's a 2-bed, 1-bath, I'm just going to quickly look through the comps here. I see a smaller home for 130. I should go back. I should look at closed units, right? And because there's 126, I don't want that many. I want to go cut down the days. Let's just go on the last 90 days. This is more manageable. So then I'm going to select a couple and do my apples to apples comparison. Hopefully there's a couple 2-bed, 1-baths in here. Not looking good. There's a 1-bed, 1-bath. That's not a comp. 80K, that's not a comp. Anything priced below 120 is not a good comp, right? Because we're trying to see how much it'd be worth after it was pimped out. Here we go. This might be a good one, a good indicator of whether it's worth it or not. It's 2-bed, 2-bath, 235K. Here's another one that's similarly sized, most likely at 207. So these are getting into the ones that have obviously been touched by investors. Maybe even these guys. So let's go to those selected properties and let's just start running through the details to see if it might be worthwhile. Similar size, 2-bed, 2-bath. Okay, cool. Let's look at the photos. Exterior has a nice little curb appeal, nothing special. That's what paint and a roof will do for you. It's been updated inside, floors, paint, nothing special. Cute bathroom. They virtually staged it, which is stupid in my eyes. Nothing crazy with the kitchen. Okay, so here's a good comp. So I know that from $120,000, we could potentially get up to that 235. Now, I also want to know when this thing closed. It closed this year, a couple months ago. So this is a pretty good comp. Let's go to this next one. 3-bed, 1-bath, same size. Again, similar makeup on the exterior. And this one closed 2 months ago, month and a half ago. So this is a real good comp. So we're looking at least 207 in this comp if we put some love into it. ARV, I like to give a range. So in this situation, I'd say we're probably looking at like 207 all the way up to, depending upon the fixes, maybe 280 here. This is a similarly sized house as well. Nice. Oh, that's hot. Y'all like exposed brick?
I do now.
You're not American if you don't. I'm just joking. Nice little kitchen. This is cool. They did a really good job here. And this one sold about a month and a half ago too. So these are good comps. So understanding what the potential is for a home, that's your ARV. Potential, if you go updates galore, you could be in the 280 range. So if you can, at the end of the day, the investor, they only care about what they can make after all that stuff's done. So then Jason comes in with, hey, here's how much it would cost to get to that point where you could sell it for that much. Would it be worth it? And so then it's all a math equation. Hopefully this has been good for you guys. This is what we do a lot of when you're in the market for a long time. Like you'll get a lot of investors that are interested in flip situations, and you yourselves should be able to understand these numbers, because if you yourself comes across a deal, you want to capitalize on it. Michael, I know you were talking with a guy who was interested in doing flips, and you were talking about maybe going in with him. Like, don't hesitate, guys. That's how people become wealthy. Don't sit on the sidelines and just help other people get wealthy. Do it yourselves. Cool? All right. Hopefully this was good. I will talk to y'all later. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful day.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks,
Bye.
Josh.